are you today? Good. How are you, Congressman? Glad you're here. That's everyone. Great. Good afternoon, everyone. We're going to go ahead and get started. My name is Zaira Garcia, and I'm the Regional Government Relations Director at Forward.us, a bipartisan advocacy group that believes America's families, communities, and economy thrive when more individuals are able to achieve their full potential. I want to thank Congressman Castro today and the members of Congress who are here and traveled to Dilley to witness the cruelty being carried out by this administration. I'm so thankful that you all have continued to show up to fight for our communities, for our families, for children, for moms and dads that are currently being held in a trailer prison. As a mother, daughter of immigrants, and lifelong Texan, it is heartbreaking for me to think about the children that are wasting away in a detention center instead of enjoying a childhood. I also think about Mother's Day as we approach this weekend, a celebration, how many mothers are being held and how many children are being held in a facility instead of celebrating the occasion of Mother's Day together. What is happening at Dilley is not a policy debate. It is cruelty towards mothers, fathers, and children held behind walls in conditions that put their health, their safety, and their dignity at risk. It is everyone's responsibility to protect children in our communities. Children belong in school, at home, in environments where they can grow and thrive. They deserve safety, security, and our protection. Instead, our government is subjecting them to trauma and dehumanization, conditions that actively deprive them of needs as basic as nutrition, as basic as medical care. Dilley is no place for a child, and it's no place for any human being. Across the country, we are seeing a broader pattern of more and more families separated. Parents are being taken from their children, and we cannot afford to ignore the impact that has on our kids. We are seeing the enforcement of immigration escalate so much so that it includes DACA recipients who are being caught up in enforcement actions that are becoming more aggressive and less predictable. For instance, Jose Contreras Diaz, a 30-year-old DACA recipient who was unlawfully deported to Honduras while his wife was pregnant with their first child, a moment that is so sacred and so beautiful. As they built their family, ICE chartered a flight and returned him with our tax dollars, only to detain him again in ICE detention. Instead of holding his son, who was born and is a week old, he is currently sitting in immigration detention. Again, all at the expense of our tax dollars. This is family separation in real time. Later, you will hear from attorney Kate Lincoln Goldenfinch, who is representing the family of the 2 San Antonio students that were taken at a bus stop. Another childhood impacted, another family impacted by immigration enforcement. Last week, we were celebrating the release of Wendy, who spent 10 months in detention, a young woman who dreamed of being a pediatrician whose dreams were wasting away. We now learn about Olivia Andre, another 19-year-old who is an asylum seeker who was studying her first year to be a nurse in college, who was detained and is currently being held at Dilley. She's been there since November. These stories are unique, but at the same time, you're hearing about so many families that it's the same story, families who have no business and being at Dilley. Recently, news broke that the Trump administration closed the office that oversees and investigates things in ICE detention. That is terrifying. In a place like Dilley that we've already seen the cruelty, how the food is making children sick, the water is making children sick, and now there's nowhere to go for accountability. It is why I am so grateful to the members of Congress who have come out here to witness firsthand, to provide oversight, and to demand that families be released and that Dilley be shut down. It is with that I want to thank Congressman Castro for his leadership in leading this delegation, and I want to hand it over. It is my honor to introduce you all to Congressman Castro.
Well, first I want to say thank you so much to CIDA and to Forward.us for all of their incredible work, not just this year or last year, but for many years now, in helping us reach reasonable immigration solutions in this country and with Congress. I also want to say thank you to my colleagues who joined me today, many of whom either drove or flew far to be here in San Antonio and to make the inspection of Dilley. Thank you everybody who helped put this inspection together. Thank you so much on a personal note to my staff who worked really, really hard to do so much to get ready for this and to see it through. This was my 4th or 5th visit this year to Dilley. And when it comes to the Dilley Detention Center, it's one horror after another and one abuse after another, just like Donald Trump's immigration policy in this country. I had a chance to spend about 20 minutes with the Uzcatequi Labrador family, with Betania, the stepmom to a 5th grader, Victor, and a 2nd grader, Montserrat. They are students at Cambridge Elementary in the Alamo Heights area, and ICE targeted them and picked them up at a bus stop in San Antonio. When ICE did that, they lied to Betania. They claimed they were looking for someone else. When she proved to them that she was not that person, they said, well, let us take you down to the station and put an ankle bracelet around you so we can monitor you. Instead of taking her to any office, she ended up with her 2 kids at the Dilley trailer prison. That tactic is not unusual, either being targeted at a bus stop where kids wait for the school bus or being lied to by ICE under Donald Trump's administration. And so the kids, as you can imagine, were distraught. They were sobbing most of the time that we were with them. The young girl talked about how much she missed her father. When we returned here to San Antonio, the first thing that I did, along with Roseanne Maldonado, my district director, we called Victor to let him know that his kids send their love, that they miss him, that they look forward to seeing him. The kids also expressed gratitude to their classmates at Cambridge Elementary and wanted to say thank you to the San Antonio community for speaking up for them. They had heard just a little bit of all of the news coverage and the incredible outpouring of support from the community. And they wanted to say a special thank you to their teachers. Victor, and I told them that I would relay this. Victor's teachers include Ms. Juarez, Ms. Hernandez, and Ms. Martinez, and of course a thank you to all the folks in his class. And then Montserrat, the 2nd grader, has Ms. Ramos at Cambridge Elementary, and she was very grateful as well. You know, Victor was crying because he felt like he might miss the end of the school year and not see his friends. He's supposed to finish off 5th grade and then was going to go to Alamo Heights Junior High School. And you know, they're uncertain about what their future will bring. They did write a note to their dad, and they said that we could share it with you. And I want to read, it's fairly short, but we did the translation from Spanish to English. But let me read it to you really quick. It says, "Hello, Daddy. I love you very much and miss you very much. Victor." And the young girl says, "Hello, Daddy. I miss you very much. I hope you're okay. Tell everyone from my class hello." So these kids are deeply traumatized, just like a lot of the kids at Dilley. There are 93 children who are still at the Dilley trailer prison. There are about 396 people, I believe, total, who are there now. My goal is to close this detention center. I don't believe that any child should be in detention, most especially these innocent kids who have done nothing wrong. And so we're going to keep working at that. We're going to keep pressing these cases. As y'all can imagine, every single day now, we have folks that reach out for help on their cases. We've tried to be as helpful as we can be to folks, not only at Dilley, but at places like Pearsall, Carnes, and other detention centers as well. I think when we look back on this era in American history, we will look back with shame. We will look back with incredible shame of the human rights abuses, most particularly against children, that were committed at places like Dilley. Really quickly, and then I want to bring on my colleagues. Again, we heard some very concerning things about the lack of medical treatment there. A few of the women said that the unofficial policy of the place is that unless you're bleeding, you don't have a medical emergency. Unless they see blood, there is no medical emergency. For a few months now, nobody's been able to do any kind of video calls. So, you know, in no Zooms, obviously no FaceTime video calls or any type of thing like that. They've been limited to phone calls. And they also said that they've had problems accessing email often. So ICE has made it hard for these folks, and Core Civic, which is a private prison, for-profit prison company that runs this place, has made it hard for these folks to even communicate with their loved ones or get any word out about their condition. So we've done it once. Dilley was closed during the Biden administration. It should be closed again. All right, with that, I'd like to introduce my colleague from Texas, Representative Sylvia Garcia from Houston.
Thank you, Congressman. And first, I want to thank you for your leadership in putting this CODEL together, and thank you to your team, and thank you to our allies for doing all the work that they did to make sure that we could make this oversight visit. I think this is my third visit to Dilley, and I can truthfully tell you that not much has changed. Not much has changed, because while administrations have changed, and I came here in a visit during even the Biden administration, the contractors don't change. Core Civic is today what it was last time. In fact, it's even worse, because our visit, any question that we asked, number one, was not answered, and number two, any response or any comment they meant was scripted. That means there's tighter and tighter control on how much they can even tell us. So we have to do our oversight obligation by being more probing and really being able to talk to the detainees. As was mentioned by the congressman, you know, there's a lot of children here, almost 100. And I totally agree with him. A jail is no place for children. Call it what you want. This is a baby jail, and it must be closed. We closed it before, and we need to close it again. I was just amazed, though, that one other thing that has changed, because I remember that the cost per person in Dilley was around, I think it was like around $500 or $700 when I came here first. Today, it's $1,025 per person. Think of what you could do a day with $1,000. And then you see what we're getting as taxpayers. It ain't worth $1,000, y'all. Because when we really talk to the detainees, and I had an opportunity to speak to about 18 single women. They had no children there. They had no husbands there. They were single women. They can't even get a tampon. If they want a tampon, they've got to pay for it, $20 for a box of 18. $20. Where are they going to get $20? And that price is almost twice. I Googled it quickly. That's almost twice of what you can get, what the price is at Target or Walmart or even through Amazon. It's outrageous. And if they want a sanitary napkin, they've got to ask for it between 3 to 5 days before, and then it'll take them a while before they get it. Now, ladies, you know, our periods weren't always very predictive, were they? So think about where you would be, because that's exactly where these ladies are. So I want to repeat the number again, $1,025, and they can't even afford to give women tampons. That is just outrageous. And this contract, and most of the contracts are no bid. If you look at who's getting them, they're all former contributors to either the campaign, the inaugural committee, or some RNC committee. And they're per month set, so they could have 200 people there, or they could be at capacity. They still get their monthly payment. Whether or not they have a doctor, whether or not they have a dentist, it doesn't matter. They're going to still get their money. The question becomes, what's happening to the dollars if they don't have a doctor there, and they're supposed to? Because when I asked the detainees how often they see a doctor, you know what they did? They laughed. They said, no, nosotros vemos nomás enfermeras, meaning they only see nurses. They don't get to see doctors. One lady had high blood pressure, another one had gallstones, and they've just been telling them that it's all in their head. Todo está en la mente. It's all in your head. The other troubling part, of course, is that not one of these women had any criminal history. Let's be clear. Not only are they're not the worst of the worst, they're not even the bad or the ugly. They're just people who happen to have gone in to check on their DACA application, gone in to check on their court case, or were just driving down a road but happened to be very dark. That's not a crime in this country. So women are there being held with no criminal record whatsoever. So I'll summarize this because I know there's a lot of other members here. To me, after I've been probably to 15 site visits, probably 6 different states. This one was lies, lies, and more lies. It's not getting better, it's getting worse. And I think the time to shut this one down is now and not later. With that, I'll turn it over to Representative Chicano, my dear friend from California.
Thank you, Congressman Silvia Garcia, Congressman Castro. Thank you for your leadership. I'm amazed that we actually got to see over 90 detainees. That is not a usual thing under this administration. I have gone to the Adelanto detention facility run by Geo Group in California, and it's very difficult for members to actually see detainees. Per court order, we are allowed to, on shorter notice, do our oversight, our legally, our legal duty to do oversight. But to actually speak to detainees is very, very important, because how else are we going to validate what the facility administrators represent to us? Look, I believe, I hold to what Congressman Castro said, that this is a moment that will live in shame. I have my own parents who were in Japanese American incarceration camps. My father was 3 years old when he was in Tule Lake. My mother was 2 years old when she was at Hart Mountain. Behind barbed wires in detention is no place for a child. Whether it is because you are vilified, because you are considered a threat to national security, as my 3-year-old father was considered a one, my 2-year-old mother. This whole idea that we need to detain women and children and fathers who were showing up for their court dates. They were showing up for immigration court dates. Almost all the women I spoke to today, the 30, 40 women I spoke to today, they were obeying the law. And they're repaid for obeying the law by being considered dangerous enough to detain for months on end. Now, to back up what Congressman Garcia said, we were shown a beautiful clinic, as I was shown in California, and I'm frustrated because in California, I can't validate the claims that are being made about the health care that they're receiving. So $15 million a month is the fixed amount that Core Civic receives. $2.5 million of that is going to health care. And I cannot see that they're getting $2.5 million worth of health care. Several women talked to me about bacterial infections down there. One woman told me about a friend that had to remain in her quarters because she is immobile. She has severe sciatica, and she has to urinate into a trash can. I didn't see that woman in the pristine medical facilities that we saw. She should have been in that room as far as I was concerned. Another woman complained or said to me that she talked about the pain in her kidneys. And again, they said it was, she said that the doctors told her it was all in her mind. She actually started to bleed. And then they took her to medical treatment. And she's awaiting blood tests to understand what is actually causing this to happen. You know, the heartbreaking thing is beyond the children that are there. I had several women who have American citizens as children, American-born children, young children, 8 years old, 2 years old, and they are in detention. Not the children, but the mothers are in detention. Tell me how the American interest and the community's interest is served by detaining the mothers of American citizens. One mother told me that her little baby, 2 months old, she's worried has lead poisoning, and the ICE officials are pressuring her to self-deport with the child. That's an American citizen. American citizens behind detention facilities is something, as I already said, I'm very familiar with. I will not rest until Dilley is shut down, until we get more access to detainees across this country. This is a shame that I think it's a shameful part of our history. I now want to hand it over to my good friend and the daughter of a really wonderful friend as well, Representative Adelita Grijalva from the state of Arizona.
Thank you. I think people might wonder, like, why are you, a congresswoman from Arizona, here in Texas? This is the only facility where families are together. So it's important for me to come see, bear witness, and understand what's happening here. I was in a room with families, so at least one parent and children, and had the opportunity to talk to them. Families from Guatemala, Colombia, Honduras, Venezuela, and Mexico. And when we started talking about the amount of resources that are being placed on a fixed basis of $15 million a month, what that equates to is $37,500 per person, per month. So if we actually put resources into supporting these families, think about what we could do with $37,500 per month per person. I talked to Mayra, who was detained in Corpus Christi coming out of a courtroom with her 13-year-old son, Alberto, who's in 7th grade at Salvador Garcia Middle School. She has an infant who is in the pediatric ICU unit in Corpus with, and she can't get information about what's going on with her child. She is the mom of 5 children. 4 of them are US citizens, and the one with her here in detention is not. Gabriel crossed in Nogales, Arizona, which is my district, with his 16-year-old son, seeking asylum. Luala, 5 children, voluntarily self-deported 13 days ago and is wondering why she is still in detention with her babies. And Jose and his son Ezekiel has a heart murmur. Jose was scheduled to have an orthopedic surgery the day after he was detained. Ezekiel was very concerned because he missed an important math test the day after he was detained. They all told me education is not happening there. They have the same curriculum that recycles every 4 days. So when we're being told that they're paying for education, it's not happening. It's not happening. Ezekiel said he stopped going to school because he learned that information the week before, and the week before that, and the week before that. It's exactly the same. This is a black eye for our nation. We are treating people inhumanely. It is vile. And it has to stop. And if this administration is so proud of the work they're doing, then why don't they allow each and every one of you in there with a camera? They should. Once you see it, you can't unsee it. And I feel it's a privilege to be able to represent people and have the authority to be able to go into these spaces. But it is a weight that we all live with every day. It is painful. As a mom of 3 kids, I don't know how else to describe the look in other moms' eyes when they don't know what's going on with their babies. It's traumatizing. And Dilley has to close, but so do all the other facilities. And we need to put a stop to all of these pop-up facilities that are gonna sprout up all over our communities. They're not doing us any good. This is not about safety. It's not about saving money. It is about private businesses making a ton of money off the backs of our immigrant community. And it has to end. Thank you. And now I want to introduce my friend, Representative Pingree. Oops, be careful. That's all I need.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I want to thank Representative Castro and all of his incredible team for welcoming us down here today, and to my other colleagues who are here because they care so deeply about this topic. I represent the state of Maine, about as far away as you can get from Texas, and a very different situation. We have traditionally been the whitest state in the nation. Didn't have a lot of immigrants, don't have a lot of border crossings except into Canada, although they don't come anymore, they're too mad at us, so we don't have them anymore. But over the last decade or so, a little bit more, we've seen busloads of new Mainers come to our state. And I want you to know we've welcomed them with open arms. We've been thrilled to have them join our schools, our workforce, our communities. We've been very excited to add to our population and to have so many people from around the globe come to join our state. But just this year, as you saw in Minnesota, we had our own little surge. It was called Catch of the Day, just inappropriately named in that kind of way, where they picked up over 200 Mainers in less than a week. Only 12 of them had criminal convictions, and took them into detention facilities all over the country. I have a hardworking staff, and so many others, advocates and lawyers, have been working to get all of those Mainers back to our state as fast as we possibly can. And I came here today for one very specific reason and one very specific constituent. I wanted to validate all the things that my colleagues have been saying, and everything that you've heard today is true. We need to close Dilley. We need to close these facilities. There was nothing about the conditions that were humane, and it is done with our tax dollars and in our name, and it has to stop. But I came here to find Olivia Andre, one of my constituents, who we desperately want to come back to Maine. She was picked up with her family in November of last year. Her mother and her 2 siblings had a perilous journey. They started out in the DRC. They wandered their way down through Brazil, came all the way up. She lost her 8-year-old brother in the crossing. He was drowned on the way. And their family ended up in Maine in 2022. They have made a home for themselves in Maine. We've been thrilled to have them in our community. Her brother's a star in the soccer team. He's a junior in high school. Her sister is a standout. And Olivia herself graduated from high school a 1.5 years early. She became fluent in English very young. She's already gotten her CNA, and she'd started out in nursing school. But she was picked up with the rest of their family, brought here in November. Well, after 4 months of torture in Dilley, the rest of the family was released. But because she is 19 years old, they have yet to release her. So we are doing everything we possibly can. She filed one of her court petitions just last night, but we have been seeking in every possible way, while her family pursues their very valid asylum claim about the horrific things they lived through in the DRC. We want her back home with us, back using her work permit to help support her family, back being a support to her mother and her siblings, and back for her mental health and well-being. She didn't know if she'd get a chance to see me today, and we did get to spend about an hour together talking about what she missed in Maine, what it's been like for her, so many of the conditions that others have described she'd experienced. She's been waiting 2 months to get her eyes checked because she has chronic headaches. She has mental health issues. She doesn't like the food. She feels lonely and isolated and very much separated from her family. But she didn't know she would see me, and so she gave me this letter, and I can't read it all. I would sob all the way through it, but let me just read you a few sentences. I am only 19 years old, but these months in detention have felt like a lifetime. Every day here is heavy. I tried to hold myself together, but the truth is I'm exhausted. Sometimes it feels like I am fading away inside myself. But with all this, and she says some other things along the way, I still hold on to one thing, home. And for me, home is Maine, especially Portland. Maine is where I felt safe for the first time in a long time. I want to feel safe again. I want to feel like I matter. I want to feel like I'm not alone. We are going to continue to do everything we can to possibly get her home. She's attracted a lot of attention because it's yet one more case, but we all know when we get her home, that's just one of so many young people who are locked up in facilities like this who don't belong there, and we're spending our tax dollars to do it. Thank you so much for having us.
Hey everybody, I am Congressman Christian Menifee. I represent Houston's 18th Congressional District, which includes downtown Houston and northern Houston, and has one of the largest immigrant populations in the city area. I want to thank Congressman Castro for setting this up today and allowing us to see the conditions at Dilley firsthand. What I saw today was horrific, but I also saw a ton of dishonesty. As we walked throughout that facility, we had the folks at ICE, the folks at CoreCivic who worked at Dilley tell us that they were giving world-class health care to these people. When we asked the critical nurse what was the last critical case that they had, she couldn't tell us. Nobody could tell us, despite the fact that when we talked to the detainees, they told us example after example of people bleeding and having serious medical issues. When we went to the so-called cafeteria area, we saw a digitized menu that included fried shrimp. When we talked to the detainees, they told us that they had never had any food like that before, and that in fact the food makes them sick. I talked to a detainee from California who told me that she had already lost 5 pounds and her son over the course of 20 days had lost more than 10 pounds because the food there was inedible. Time after time, we saw inconsistencies in the stories that we were being told from the folks who work at Dilley. I talked to a woman named Miriam who was picked up on the way to pick up her son from school. She was apprehended. In her words, she was kidnapped and forced from California here to Texas. Her husband was kidnapped the day before her, and he's at a different facility. She is an academic, a professor. Her husband's a professor, fluent in English, and was picked up and given absolutely no reason why. She and her son are now battling mental health issues as they're segregated from the rest of the folks in Dilley and receiving horrible treatment, barely having access to internet because it's so spotty, having to send emails to 5 different people because she doesn't know which one of the emails is actually going to go through. Her son hasn't been able to be educated because, as she told me, the education system there stops at about the 9th grade. I want to be clear. Donald Trump's ICE is ruining this country, both in how they enforce immigration laws and how they're inhumanely detaining people throughout the country, but especially here in the state of Texas. Our immigration policy in this country should be focused on going after folks who have committed violent crimes. But what we saw in this facility today was a bunch of people who had committed no crime. I toured the ICE facility out in the 18th Congressional District, just south of Bush Intercontinental Airport, and about half of the folks who were in that facility were there in connection with a conviction. But here, we just saw families, just regular working class people doing what they can to provide for their families, and they're being punished by Donald Trump's ICE. I support all of my colleagues' calls for closing Dilley. I'm so grateful to Congressman Castro for letting me be out here, and I can guarantee you it would not be my last time here. We need to close this facility, and we need humanity in our immigration policy. And with that, I'll turn it over to an attorney who's representing families in connection with their detention, Kate Lincoln Goldfinch.
Thank you, Congressman Castro, for preparing this event. My name is Kate Lincoln Goldfinch. I'm an immigration attorney based in Austin, Texas, and I have been doing immigration and working with detained families for almost 20 years. And what we are witnessing right now is unprecedented in its scale, its cruelty, and its an injustice. One of the families that this delegation visited today are my clients, Maria Betania and her 2 children, Victor and Montserrat. Victor is 11 years old, and he's enrolled in the Gifted and Talented program at school. Montserrat is 8, and she's on her way to joining him. They're good kids in good schools, living a good life. But on Monday, April 27th, the family decided to walk to the bus stop together because it was Maria's birthday, and they wanted to spend a little extra time together that morning. Victor forgot his keys and he ran inside. When he returned, he saw a group of ICE agents surrounding his wife and children. The agents told Maria Betania that they were looking for a woman named Jocelyn who looked just like her. Maria is not Jocelyn. Maria, her husband Victor, and their children entered this country in 2021. They were paroled in, they applied for asylum, they received work permits, and they had valid legal status. They complied with every required appointment. They did everything right. And still, Maria and the children were detained. Before taking her, ICE agents had Maria call Victor through the window and had her tell him, "Come outside, or we are separating your son from the family." Luckily, Victor knew this was an empty threat, and he stayed inside so he could coordinate legal support for his family. But he had to stand at the window and watch his wife and young children be taken away. He has since expressed feelings of depression, anxiety, and a profound sense of powerlessness. And I can tell you, having spoken with many parents over the years, the anguish of watching your child be detained, unable to stop it, is a pain I hope most of us never have to feel. The children are suffering in detention. They're worried about missing school. They're unhappy with the food. They cannot sleep. And they are not alone. This is happening every single day. In Texas, it happens on an even grander scale, not just through ICE, but through DPS officers and local law enforcement conducting pretextual traffic stops and detaining people on administrative warrants. Over the past year, I have received thousands of calls who have lived this story. I'm really grateful for this congressional delegation for being here, for visiting these families, for bearing witness, for using their platform to shed light on what is happening, and I'm grateful to the members of the press for telling these stories. Because here is the truth. We are putting small children in jail, children who have committed no crime, parents who have committed no crime, and we as a nation are paying private prison companies to profit from their prolonged detention. More people have died in immigration detention this year than in recent decades. In fact, one person has died every 6 days in 2026 in immigration detention. This must stop. We must support members of Congress who are speaking out, and we must hold accountable those who are not. And I have a few comments in Spanish for the members of our Spanish-speaking media. Buenas tardes, soy Kate Lincoln Goldfinch, abogada de inmigración en Austin, Texas, con casi 20 años de experiencia. Lo que estamos presenciando hoy es sin precedentes en su escala, su crueldad, su injusticia. Una de las familias que esta delegación visitó son mis clientes, María y sus 2 hijos, Víctor y Montserrat. Víctor tiene 11 años y está en el programa de alumnos talentosos. Montserrat tiene 8 y va camino a lo mismo. Son buenos niños con una buena vida. El 27 de abril la familia caminó junto a la parada del autobús. Era el cumpleaños de María. Víctor olvidó sus llaves y entró a buscarlas. Al salir encontró agentes de ICE rodeando a su esposa y sus hijos. Los agentes dijeron que buscaban a una mujer llamada Jocelyn. María no es Jocelyn. Ella y su familia entraron al país en 21 bajo parol, solicitaron asilo, obtuvieron permisos de trabajo y cumplieron con cada cita requerida. Hicieron todo bien y aún así fueron detenidas. Antes de llevárselas, los agentes hicieron que María llamara a su esposo desde la ventana y le dijera, "Sal o separamos a su hijo". Por suerte, Víctor reconoció que era una amenaza vacía. Se quedó adentro para coordinar apoyo legal, pero tuve que ver cómo llevaban a su esposo y sus hijos pequeños. Desde entonces ha sufrido depresión, ansiedad e impotencia. La angustia de ver a tu hijo detenido sin poder hacer nada es un dolor que espero que la mayoría nunca tengamos que sentir. Los niños están sufriendo, extrañan a la escuela, no pueden dormir, no están solos. Esto pasa todos los días. En Texas ocurre a mayor escala con la DPS y policías locales haciendo paradas pretextuales y deteniendo a personas bajo órdenes administrativas. He recibido miles de llamadas de familias que han vivido esta historia. La verdad es esta. Estamos encarcelando a niños pequeños que no han cometido ningún crimen y como nación estamos pagando a empresas privadas para que se benefician de ello. Este año ha habido más muertes en detención migratoria que en décadas. Una persona muere cada 6 días. Esto debe de detenerse. Apoyen a quienes están alzando la voz y hagan responsables a los quienes no lo hacen. Gracias.
Thank you so much, Kate, and thank you to all the members of Congress as well. With that, we'll take some questions.
Congressman Castro, just to verify, we've seen a couple different spellings on this Allen's family's name. Can you give us the proper last name?
Sure, yeah, we'll write it down for you so you have the. Yeah.
And since you've had the privilege to speak to this family in these troubling times, what is your message to them while they're sitting there waiting and hoping to get out?
That San Antonio cares for them, that the city has been moved by their story, and from me, that we'll do everything we can to get them out.
Congressman, I've been in contact with the husband of Tanya. I've been talking to him every day. He just told me that to thank you for everything that you're doing. But also, we've been getting reports of those neighbors that are there in Alamo Heights that they are seeing every day ICE agents in their neighborhood, every single day. That's something that you said you wanted to stop. They're feeling threatened. They're feeling that they are hunting them. What is your reaction on this?
Well, you know, I had a chance last night actually to drive by that area, probably around 8:30 at night or so, 8 o'clock at night, and drove by the area where the bus stop is and also those apartments. Yeah, I mean, I think it's a shame that ICE is targeting kids at bus stops. And from what we've heard in our office, this has been not just on one occasion, but happening repeatedly. I was told yesterday that ICE followed somebody to the grocery store, for example. And I had that conversation with the leadership of ICE in San Antonio today when we were at Dilley. I said that I thought that it was unjust, but I also said I believe that's why there's been a big public backlash in San Antonio, because most people disagree with targeting kids at the bus stop where they wait to go to school. And so, you know, it's not just my voice, it's the voice of the community and the voice of millions of Americans who are speaking out against those practices. And we have to continue pushing so that they stop.
At one point, it sounded like in January there were up to 900 people at Dilley. There were a lot more children in there. Clearly, from what you said earlier, we're looking at over 300 now and fewer than 100 children. What is happening to reduce those numbers? Is the government changing its procedures at all, or is this a case where they're deporting more people so they're not in there?
Well, I think when I went there the first time in January, there were 1,100 people there. So the overall population has gone down significantly. So that's a good thing. Unfortunately, it's hard to say exactly how many people have been deported and how many have been released back into their communities. The reason for that is that once somebody is out of ICE custody, their A number, or what is known as their alien number, they are no longer tracked as individuals. So it becomes difficult, unless you're in touch with family members or attorneys or others who may know their whereabouts, to say exactly where each and every person has gone. We know, for example, though, what has been encouraging is that the judges of the Western District, the federal district in Texas, here in San Antonio, have released a lot of folks by habeas orders. So that has been an encouraging thing. And I hope that they will continue to recognize that these folks are being unjustly held and continue to release more folks.
But though the population's going down, the $15 million stays constant. They receive $50 million regardless of whether there's 1,100 people there or 400 people there.
Jeremy, I wanted to just add there's probably other two factors. One is once they see that there's a lot of media attention in one detention center, or they try to get them in there and out as possible to an area where they're not, because then they can do what they want without any scrutiny. And the second thing is that he touched on a little bit is they look for areas where there's no federal court orders or no friendly judges to immigrants so that they can get done what they need done with, again, without any federal oversight. So they basically forum shop. We saw that in Chicago. They would just put them there overnight. Chicago was doing what they were doing, and they would immediately the next day, people were disappeared, and it would take 2 to 4 days before people knew where they were sent. So, you know, y'all are doing a good job here. He's doing a good job here. The judges are doing a good job, in my judgment. So better to stay away from a friendly area. They go somewhere else where they can get judges to do what they want done.
Moment. The other thing is, I spoke to a couple of people that said, oh, now it explains why so many people were moved out, because you guys were coming. So there is a connection that there were people that were moved out before our visit. Sí. Yeah. So cada mes gastamos, no le hace que tanta gente están en el edificio en Dilley, $15 millones cada mes. So, para cada persona, si tenemos 400 más o menos, es 37 mil, más de $37,000 cada persona.
Al caminar por esas 4 paredes, ¿cuál fue su reacción? ¿Cuál fue su sensación?
Es algo como inhumano, muy horrible, cruel, a separar a familias. Tenemos padres que no pueden estar con su esposa y sus hijos porque tienen que estar separados. Oímos de cuando tienen más como de 19 años que pueden estar cerca por 1 hora cada día y luego 3 horas el fin de semana. Pero cuando las personas que están allí de Core Civic nos están diciendo que personas pueden caminar como quieren, ese no es la verdad, no es la verdad. Y tenemos que hablar de eso porque nos están diciendo mentiras a nuestra cara. Cuando podemos hablar con la gente, averiguar que eso no está pasando.
Entonces, hasta que hay un sangrado, se les atiende de manera emergente. O sea,
Ese es algo que representante Castro, que pasó con
Pues,
ellos, de
I'll give you the
servicios
English
médicos.
answer.
Yeah.
cuando alguien...
¿Lo quieres en español?
La emergencia, una persona que está dentro de la cárcel o del centro de detenciones, solo es atendido cuando está en condiciones totalmente críticas. It's only when they are in critical condition.
Yeah,
Blood is being
what we describe, because remember, there's single women there who don't have any children with them, but they're still incarcerated. And what they told us was that the unofficial policy is that unless you're bleeding, the medical staff does not consider your situation an emergency. So unless they can physically see blood from somebody, they don't treat it as an emergency. And that's in addition to just all the regular medical delays. There was a man with a black cast. He had fractured his, what looked like, his shin maybe, and he fractured it, and he said that he was given Tylenol 3 times a day. That was the extent of the treatment that he was getting besides the cast.
Congressman Castro, the Alamo Heights family has been there for a little over a week now.
Yep.
What are the next steps for them?
So I understand a habeas corpus petition has been filed there, and so I'm hoping that in the next week or so that the judge will order that, will essentially issue an order granting that habeas petition. So it's my hope that they'll be out relatively soon. I say relatively soon because remember, we just dealt with the El Gamal family that was there for almost 11 months, and other families that we met with today that have been there months and months.
I just want to say one
Yeah,
last thing.
please.
And please help me with this, because you said it earlier. They keep saying that Dilley is where they keep families together, but that in itself is false. It just means that the whole family is at the same center, but they're not in the same dormitory, in the same living area, if you will, like families are. And you want to go through that?
Sure,
You
yeah.
did it really well earlier.
Yeah, I mean, it's odd because it's ironic that there is family separation even within this family detention
If they're
center.
not together.
For example, when a father and mother come in with 2 kids, they will not allow the father to stay with the mom and the kids. They separate out the dads and put them somewhere else. So they're actually separating the families, and they've got up to 12 people per room, so it's multiple families per room. They're doing this right now despite the fact that this facility has a capacity of about 2,300 people or so. So they can do a lot better job of keeping fathers and mothers together with the kids, but instead they continue to insist on separating the dads out from their wives and their kids.
They wouldn't let Olivia, who was 19, be with her mother and two siblings.
Yeah, that's
except
the
for
other thing.
1 hour on the weekends.
That's right, and Representative Pingree reminds me also, the other case we see, and we saw it with the El Gamal family, is when, let's say you have a mom and 3 daughters, when the daughter becomes an adult, they move her away from staying with the family. So she's separated from her sisters and her mom, and she now is in the group with the adult single women. So they're doing family separation even within what is called a family detention center.
There's a warehouse here in San Antonio that ICE had purchased to convert into a detention center. Is that location currently on hold?
My understanding is that it's on hold. It should never open.
Do you know why it's on hold?
I don't know the latest reason. I know there's been legal wrangling around it, but for whatever reason, it should stay. It should not be open.
One last question.
Yeah, one more. We'll take one more if y'all have it.
So, can you talk about Victor Sr.? Like, what's he doing right now? What's his reaction? What is he doing prioritizing?
And then I'll let Kate also, if Kate wants to say a few words. You know, when I spoke with him, and Roseanne on my staff, my district director, has spoken to him almost daily, you know, since they were taken in. But he seems very distraught. You know, he was very grateful for our visit and said to tell everybody thank you, especially for visiting with his kids. But he's obviously traumatized as well. And, you know, it's just very hard for him. He doesn't know where their life is going to go from here. Kate, you want to say?
Sure. You know, Victor and Maria Betania and the children have a very strong asylum claim. The outcome of their asylum case looks good based on what happened to them in Venezuela, and they, like we've shared, they were doing everything the right way. This was a complete and utter surprise to them that this happened, and so he's really focused on them and getting them out. I find him to be one of the most pleasant clients I've ever worked with. He's so grateful, thankful, gentle, willing to share his story, willing to talk about his feelings. So grateful to the community, but he is he's focused on the family and getting them out. Yeah.
All right, y'all. Thank you.
Thank you all.